This video is to provide information about the high altitude, high performance training center work that's been worked on. We'll talk about the concept ideas, what services would be in mind, why would we do this, give you some background, and talk about some of the things that we would need to actually pursue this concept. The premise is that Los Alamos is a appealing environment for endurance training, and our elevation really provides conditions that can make it attractive to teams, individuals, people who are interested in high performance training. The concept is to organize, to provide venues, facilities, services to organizations, coaches, and individual athletes desiring to maximize their performance, and to see if we can develop an ongoing clientele for the Los Alamos area. The reason to look at this, it's been talked about. Some definitely people have felt like this could be a good idea to provide new opportunities for local businesses and organizations, to attract athletes who might be residents or additional residents in our community. A big piece is to provide positive community image and help there be the idea that there's more to Los Alamos than the laboratory. And then opportunities for our local athletes at all levels to meet elite athletes in their sports. The initiative came from Wolfgang Dvorak and Kent Pegg, and they approached Chamber of Commerce to help develop the idea. The county government has also expressed an interest in, has invested through the Lodgers Tax Board in projecting an image of Los Alamos as a place for high altitude sports. That's the logo you see to the right here, is something that the Lodgers Tax Board has worked on. There have been a variety of suggestions over time that we could develop a more significant economic benefit from sports or recreation business development. Wolfgang, Kent, and the Chamber have collected information, and we've done outreach to a variety of individuals to put together this concept that we're sharing with you in this presentation. The real things that we need to do to be successful are to understand what the target athletes' expectations are for a training center. Do we really have what it takes to meet those expectations and to be competitive with the other places that high altitude, high performance athletes are already going or might be able to choose to go to? Part of this is to identify what, if any, competitive advantages we may have relative to other places, and to try to see what would be the feasibility to really propose any kind of a funded effort. Looking at competition, there are, just doing web research, there's a variety of places that address parts of this market or address this market, and you see them listed here together with elevations. So there are quite a number of places, and also in our area in the Rocky Mountains, quite a number of places who are looking at trying to address this market. We have a number of outstanding venues and things to offer. The aquatic center, the tracks at the high school and the middle school, trails, paved roads and highways. This is an area where we have some, but it's not a particular strength from what we've had people tell us so far. And then there are winter venues and winter activities also that can be put together in this context. We have several fitness centers and or health clubs that can provide some of the training aspects. And then if we think of this regionally, not just Los Alamos County, there are a number, that's where we can really supplement on our paved roads and highways, pick up some lakes for swimming things, etc. The services that we've conceived or the concept would look at is, can we do the coordination with the facilities, the service providers, and make referrals to people who are interested here for a variety of service needs that they might have. Everything from coaching, sports training, physical therapy, medical needs, performance testing, and as well as places to stay and things to eat and help people feel like they have a good experience. The research has identified a number of targets. This is just a partial list. That's the beginning of a list of places to check in with to try to ascertain what interest, if any, could they see in a training, high performance, high altitude training activity. The approach that we would take, and we've conceived of, is two phases. The first phase is really feasibility. There are no resources for this. This is something that we're trying to work on the side to see, can we put to the test and really learn some things that could lead to a more measured assessment of whether or not this is a fertile ground to pursue. So the first phase would be just a market test. We already have begun a list, and we could use help from a lot of local expertise in different sports to build on that list. The marketing materials, we've shared a brochure at the presentation today. Talked to Jimmy Archer, who's expressed a willingness to do an article. Jimmy is a writer and a high-performance triathlete. He was here for the Los Alamos Triathlon this year. And then doing some fairly simple web things that help supplement or complement the brochure and the article. In this first phase, we would do a steady direct mail at a pretty low volume per week so that we can keep up with it without any new resources. And so we would hit these target markets with our brochure, the article, reference to the website, and then we would do a follow-up about a week later once we mailed these out and try to reach the people that we've sent initial print materials to. And we'd have a very structured approach to talking to them about what their interests might be and what their impressions and feedback are, and even potentially referrals might be relative to this idea. The way that we've talked about going about this, the Los Alamos Meeting and Visitor Bureau, part of the Chamber, would prepare and send out the direct marketing communication and compile feedback from volunteers that we would need to recruit from amongst our athlete communities. The volunteers would handle the follow-up calls to those direct mailings and collection of the structured feedback and feeding it back to the MVB. If there is somebody who is interested, we would absolutely pursue that. And so a person at the Meeting and Visitor Bureau would team up with one of our subject matter expert volunteers to work with that prospect and work out what their needs would be, do local coordination with local businesses and services that can satisfy those needs. And then the volunteers would be responsible for any athlete coach advisement. We can envision if somebody did come, they would want advice and help understanding the range of venues that are available and how to make the best of their training experience here. Phase 2 won't go through it, but the idea is based on phase 1. If we really can substantiate and learn some concrete things about what would allow for there to be a market to address here, phase 2 would be some proposals to actually ramp that up and really put some see. So what do we need? We got some good feedback at the initial meeting, and there were some clubs and orgs who weren't there, were real interested in knowing what their take on this is, whether they would be interested in being involved in this first phase. And one of the ways we really need people to be involved to enable the first phase is to find at least 1 or 2 volunteers for each of the targeted sports categories. And by the way, the targeted sport categories we've been looking at are running, biking, and swimming, and then multi-sport that goes across those. So what someone would need to do as a volunteer, they'd have to participate in a little bit of training to get oriented to this. They would be responsible for making follow-up calls on a timely basis and for turning in the structured feedback collected during those calls. If there were a team, coach, athlete interested in coming, they would become a point of contact as for questions relating to training here in Los Alamos. Again, the Meeting and Visitor Bureau would be handling logistical kinds of questions in connections with businesses and things like that. And then they'd also need to be available for periodic information sharing meetings with the LAMVB and the other volunteers and people involved.